Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're diving into something pretty interesting in the software world, vibe coding.
Yeah, it's definitely generating buzz.
Think of this as your way to get, quickly up to speed on how AI tools are shaking things up in code creation.
That's right. We've been looking at some material from Codeskill.xyz, specifically their article Vibe Coding, Coding with AI Swagger.
Hmm.
And it gives a really good overview of how these AI tools are, well, changing the game for developers.
Exactly. So our goal today is to really unpack this. What is vibe coding, actually?
Yeah.
Why is it getting so popular?
And how are different developers, juniors, mid-levels, seniors, how are they actually using it?
Right. And crucially, what are the things to watch out for? The good stuff and, the potential pitfalls.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. What exactly do we mean when we say vibe coding?
Okay, yeah, let's nail that down.
Hmm.
The term seems to have really taken off, partly thanks to Andres Karpathy, right, big name in AI. He basically talks about vibe coding as using these AI tools, large language models, things like GitHub Copilot, or maybe Replic's Ghostwriter.
Right, the ones integrated into your editor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you use them to generate code just from, well, plain English requests, simple descriptions.
And the key idea here, the shift, is that you're not writing every single line. You're describing the intent, the vibe, you could say, of what you want the code to do.
Yes. The Codeskill article had a great example. Instead of mapping out every function for a to-do app, you might just say something like, make a to-do app with React into the backend.
And the AI does the heavy lifting, or at least the initial setup.
Pretty much. Karpathy had that quote, not really coding. I just see stuff, say stuff, run stuff, and it mostly works.
That really captures the fluidity of it, doesn't it? It feels more direct idea to maybe a working prototype, less getting bogged down in syntax right away.
Yeah, it's almost like the article called it a coding genie.
Huh, yeah.
But, and this is important, you still have to rub the lamp right. Your prompts, your descriptions need to be good.
Which is a whole skill in itself, prompt engineering. We should definitely circle back to that.
Definitely.
But first, it's interesting how this whole vibe approach lands with developers at different career stages.
Absolutely. Codeskill breaks that down quite well. For junior developers, it's positioned as this sort of playground.
Low-stakes experimentation.
Yeah, you can try things without that constant fear of breaking everything. They mentioned a junior dev telling Copilot to build a calculator.
And getting something functional back pretty quick.
Exactly. And then the learning comes from tinkering with that output, seeing how it works, tweaking it, maybe learning more than just reading docs sometimes.
Right, it's active learning. You see the code, you mess with it, you understand why it works or why it doesn't.
Then you have mid-level developers.
Yeah.
For them, it seems like a big time saver,
Yeah.
especially for boilerplate stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Think about setting up API endpoints or basic CRUD operations. Tasks that are necessary, but let's be honest, pretty repetitive.
Yeah. The example was generating API endpoints. If you can just describe what you need and get the basic structure.
That frees you up for the harder problems, right? The complex logic, the architectural decisions, more interesting work, usually.
Totally. And what about seniors, the experienced folks?
The article suggests they use it a lot for rapid prototyping, like quickly mocking up an idea to show the team.
Ah, okay. So less about learning the basics, more about speed and communication.
Exactly. And maybe even for mentoring. Vibe coding, a quick example to explain a concept to a junior dev, could be super efficient.
That makes sense. There was a good tip in there too, start small.
Yeah.
Prompt it with, write a function to sort an array. Just to get a feel for how the AI responds before you ask it to build, your entire application.
That's smart. Build that intuition for how it thinks in a low-risk way. Okay, so we see the potential benefits across the board. We'll have to dig into why it's seen as such a big deal, a potential game changer.
Right. This is where it gets exciting. Codeskill highlights 3 main reasons. First one, speed. Obvious, maybe, but huge.
Yeah, that idea to prototype pipeline shrinking dramatically.
They talked about vibe coding a basic chat app in like an hour, something that might normally take a day or more.
Wow. That kind of speed lets you test ideas super fast, get feedback, change direction if needed, much earlier in the process.
Totally changes the iteration cycle.
Yeah.
Second big reason, accessibility.
Meaning.
Because you're using plain English, it potentially lowers the barrier for people who aren't, hardcore coders.
Ah, right. So maybe designers, product managers, even beginners could start building things, or at least rough versions of things.
Exactly. It could open up software creation to more people. It's a fascinating possibility.
Definitely something to watch.
And the third reason is using it as a learning tool. We touched on this with juniors.
Right, learning by examining and modifying the AI's code.
Yeah, like understanding asynchronous stuff async await
Yeah.
by seeing how Copilot uses it and then playing with it.
Makes sense. And for the more experienced devs,
It lets them focus higher up. System design, complex problem solving,
Hmm.
letting the AI handle some of the implementation grunt work. Seniors can test architectural ideas quickly, too.
so it sounds great. Faster, more accessible, good for learning. Is there a downside?
Yes. The T, as the article calls it, the limitations and potential problems.
Okay, let's get real.
It's crucial, right?
Yeah.
The AI-generated code isn't perfect. Far from it sometimes.
Bugs, inefficiency.
Yep, all of the above. And security issues, too. The article mentioned a bugged-out database query the AI wrote. Looked fine, but missed an edge case. Caused headaches later.
Ouch. That highlights the need for careful review.
Definitely. And security is a big one. The AI doesn't inherently understand your application's specific security context or needs. It might generate code that looks okay, but has vulnerabilities.
Right, it's pattern matching, not deep understanding or critical thinking like a human developer brings, ideally.
Exactly. Which leads to that common question. Are developers going to be obsolete?
The million-dollar question.
Codeskill was pretty firm on this. No, vibe coding is a tool. It enhances skills. It doesn't replace the developer.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's like TAD software for architects. Powerful tool, makes things faster, enables new possibilities, but you still need the architect.
Great analogy. And they had another great tip here. Treat AI code like it came from a junior dev.
Meaning?
Trust, but verify. Review it thoroughly. Assume it might have issues.
That's a really healthy mindset to adopt. Constant vigilance.
That
So, okay, if we want to use this tool effectively, how do we vibe code like a pro? The article had tips, right?
it did. Tailored tips for different levels. First up, pick your jam. Choosing the right AI tool.
Okay, what are the recommendations?
For juniors, GitHub Copilot or Replic's Ghostwriter. They're seen as more user-friendly, integrated well. The author mentioned liking Copilot and VS Code. Felt like a coding buddy.
That makes sense. Easy entry point.
For mid-level developers, maybe dealing with more complex stuff, they suggest looking at Tabnine or Amazon Code Whisperer.
Why those?
Seemed better suited for more complex tasks. The author used Tabnine for generating a GraphQL schema, for example.
Okay, so different tools might have different strengths.
Seems like it. And for seniors, especially thinking about production code, platforms like Lovable got a mention. They apparently emphasize security more in their testing.
Right, so matching the tool's focus, like security, to the project's needs. Sensible.
Now, the next big tip, prompt like a poet. All about writing good prompts.
Ah, prompt engineering again. Key skill.
Totally. Clarity and specifics are everything. They contrasted a vague prompt like build a login system
Which could mean anything.
with a specific one. Build a login system with Node.js, Express, and JWT auth. Much
Yeah,
better.
huge difference. The AI needs that detail to give you something useful. Vague prompts lead to vague, probably hard to debug code.
Exactly. The author learned that the hard way, apparently. So the advice is, juniors, practice prompting. Mid-levels, use it for the grunt work. Seniors, craft precise prompts for rapid prototyping.
It's a fundamental skill applied differently based on your goals. Makes sense. What's next?
Review like a hawk. We keep coming back to this.
Because it's that important.
Absolutely. Can't stress it enough. The author shared a story about skipping review on AI code and boom, production outage.
Yikes. A painful lesson, but a valuable one for everyone else. The responsibility still lies with the human.
For sure. Reviewing helps juniors learn the why. Mid-levels should pair it with tools like linters. Seniors need to enforce team standards for all code, AI-generated or not.
A strong review culture becomes even more critical. Okay, what else?
Know the limits. Understanding when not to use vibe coding.
Right, it's not a silver bullet.
Exactly. Use it for prototypes, learning, repetitive stuff. But probably not for your core mission-critical systems. The example given was a payment processor, definite big nope for vibe coding that.
Yeah, anything involving money or highly sensitive data, you probably want much tighter human control and scrutiny over every line.
So juniors stick to smaller, safer projects. Mid-levels need to blend AI help with their own solid expertise. Seniors should guide the team on where the line is, when to vibe code, when to go traditional.
It's about judgment and context. Got it. Last practical tip.
iterate and experiment.
Hmm.
Vibe coding often isn't a one-shot deal.
It's a conversation.
Exactly. It's back and forth. You prompt, you see the output, you refine the prompt, you try again. The author mentions spending hours just getting a game loop right, tweaking the prompts repeatedly.
So patience and experimentation are key. It's not always instant magic.
Right. So juniors should play with it to build confidence. Mid-levels can use it to explore new tech stacks quickly. Seniors can leverage it for innovation, trying out ideas faster.
And there was another pro tip there, right? About a log.
Oh yeah, keep a vibe log. Track your prompts, what worked well, what didn't.
That's actually brilliant. Build your own personal knowledge base for talking to the AI. Okay, those are great practical tips. What about the bigger picture, the long-term view?
Yeah, the keeping it real section, some important cautions here. For juniors, don't let AI become a crutch that stops you from learning fundamentals.
The risk of skipping the basics.
Yeah, the author admitted forgetting how basic loops worked at one point because they'd relied on AI generation too much. You still need that core understanding to debug and build robust systems.
Crucial point. Fundamentals still matter. What about mid-level devs?
The warning is against complacency. Don't just blindly trust the AI output. Keep your own skills sharp. Keep evaluating critically. Don't just become a prompt monkey.
Stay engaged, keep learning. Don't let your own problem-solving muscles atrophy.
Exactly. And seniors. They're positioned as the vibe keepers.
Meaning they blend the AI's speed with their deep experience and craftsmanship.
Precisely. They guide the process, ensure quality. The article even floated the idea of vibe hackathons, rapid AI prototyping followed by serious human refinement.
That sounds like a really productive blend of approaches, leveraging the best of both worlds.
For sure. The piece also touched on future stuff, like coding becoming more accessible, which we mentioned, and also raising questions about, like, ownership of AI code, security standards.
Yeah, the legal and ethical implications are still unfolding.
But the main takeaway was that developers who learn to harness vibe coding effectively, they'll be ahead of the curve.
It's an amplifier, not a replacement. Well, it frees you up to focus more on the creative vision, the bigger picture.
So wrapping it all up, vibe coding, this AI-assisted approach, it's clearly powerful, it's evolving fast, huge potential for speed, for accessibility.
But it absolutely demands care. Thoughtful application, rigorous review. It's another tool in the belt, a very advanced one, but not magic.
Couldn't agree more. It's a major shift, offering amazing opportunities, but also needing that critical human element. And maybe here's a final thought to leave you with. As this AI-assisted coding gets more common, how does that change what it even means to be a software developer? What other skills, beyond just typing code, become really essential in this new landscape? Something to chew on for sure. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.